Greetings everyone, my name is Raziel and today we're going to take a look at a handful of cards for the last non-neutral faction that re-releases in the Inferno expansion, the Legio Custodes. And by the Emperor do I have some cards to show you. Let's not waste any more time and take a look at the first card. First up we have the Heteron Lictor, a 2 energy custodian with 4 attack, 3 HP, Sentinel, as well as Exemplar gain first strike this turn. If you're not familiar with the Exemplar trait, first of all, shame on you, go watch the other reveals. Exemplar is essentially a conditional relentless that only triggers if there are no other custodians on your board. Before I talk about my thoughts on the card at hand, I want to go over my thoughts regarding this new trait. I love the idea behind Exemplar, especially from a lore perspective. In fact, in my Custodes video for my Failed Things in HSL series, I even suggested basically this exact trait as a replacement for Sentinel. And here's the thing, as a replacement for Sentinel. Now it looks like it will be another trait alongside Sentinel, which brings me to a big problem I can see with this new trait. It has inherent anti-synergy with Sentinel, a trait that is basically slapped onto every single custodian troop in the card pool, probably. Sentinel triggers no matter how many troops you have on your board. Whether you have 1 Sentinel troop or 6, you still won't draw a card at the start of your turn. So Sentinel incentivizes you to go wide, play as many Sentinel troops as possible, because you'll eat the drawback anyways. Now Exemplar wants you to play 1 singular custodian, and this custodian will have Sentinel most likely. So what this ends up creating is this weird situation where you will either end up playing Sentinel suboptimally, by not swarming as much as you should, or you will not be able to get Exemplar. What this leads to, in my opinion, is basically all Exemplar troops becoming unplayable, because their Exemplar effect is not enough to make up for both the Exemplar requirement of only having 1 singular custodian, as well as the Sentinel drawback. Ultimately, I fear that leaving Sentinel as it currently is will lead to yet another promising trait, and with it the entire faction potentially, once again becoming basically unplayable, because Sentinel is simply such a bad trait to have. Sorry for rambling, but I feel like this needed to be said. Back to the card. I love that mustache. Decent stats in my opinion, but just like the old Ares card, I don't think you want to play this card, given Sentinel is a big drawback and you most likely don't want to suffer from it starting turn 1. So, cool card, great artwork, but basically ruined by Sentinel. Next up we have Valdos Sordality, a 5 energy custodian with 6 attack, 5 HP, Sentinel, as well as Exemplar deal 2 damage to a random enemy 2 times. Again, same issue as with Mustache Man, decent card in itself, very good Exemplar trait, almost busted to be honest, but Sentinel. And for me, that makes this card not worth playing. On top of this, the card's stats are barely above average for modern HHL. Some would probably say they are average for modern HHL, so it's not that impressive in 1v1 combat against other troops, which makes me question why Sentinel is even on this card in the first place, other than it's a custodian. Next up we have the legendary tactic Magna Imperator, which for 4 energy makes all your Exemplar effects trigger twice. Overall, that is a very strong effect given how strong Exemplar effects inherently will be, to make up for the requirement they come with. And in a dedicated Exemplar build, you don't really have to fear tempo loss as much, as you're not really going for tempo that hard anyways. So overall, simply a great card that surely is a staple for every Exemplar focused deck out there. But we are not done yet. I also got the legendary Warlord of the Legio Custodes for you, Captain General Constantin Valdor himself. He is a 2 attack, 40 HP Warlord with medium initiative, who for 2 energy can give plus 2 HP to a friendly troop, or draw a card if you have no troop in play. This virtually is just his old ability slightly adjusted to have more synergy with making your custodians stick for their Exemplar trait for example, but that doesn't necessarily have to be a bad thing. His new Reckoning costs 18 energy and goes down by 1 energy every time you actually manage to trigger Exemplar. And this definitely feels like it is ridiculously overcosted to me. 8 Exemplar triggers to get it to 10 energy, which means 8 turns where you need to have a custodian, a singular custodian, survive the enemy turn. And 8 turns of potential Sentinel denying you your draw. Honestly, unless we get cards that manually trigger Exemplar, I don't think this will ever get down to 10 energy. And even if you do manage to do that, you will surely have won the game already by that point. And with this ridiculous requirement, his transformation surely has to read win the game, right? Well, The Emperor's Spear has 3 attack, 40 HP, first strike, gains +1 attack for each friendly troop, and can, for 2 energy, draw and put or play a random custodian from your deck. Overall, this is an okay transformation, but it is not nearly worth the effort required in the slightest. On top of that, his passive actively has anti-synergy with Exemplar, which you need to get it in the first place, if you remember, and his ability rewards running lots of big, expensive custodians in your deck, but you need cheaper ones to get this Reckoning lowered reliably. In short, I don't think the Emperor's Spear is a bad card in itself, it's just that both the requirements to get to it, as well as the deck you basically need to build around it, don't synergize with it at all. And that is it for me. Let's do a short recap. First, I showed you a cheap custodian with amazing facial hair, then we saw another victim of Sentinel being an awful trait, followed by a pretty damn good tactic for Exemplar decks, and lastly we got to take a look at the new Constantine Veldor, his Reckoning, as well as his transformation, the Emperor's Spear. Overall, I would say I am excited about the new Custodes, but I'm also severely worried that Sentinel is going to ruin yet another faction. The new traits definitely look very promising, but I am concerned they may not be able to stomach the destructive downside that is Sentinel's shocking setback. But what are your thoughts? Am I worrying too much? Will Sentinel get a rework in the near future? Am I secretly trying to make all of this seem like a bigger issue than it actually is to stretch this video's length for ad revenue? Let me know in the comments below. I hope you all enjoyed today's reveals, and I hope you all tune in again when we take a look at the new neutral cards for the Inferno expansion, if I get to reveal some of those, that is. That's it for me, and I hope to see you all again next time.